My name is Joanne and I am an English teacher working at e-Sgoil on the Interrupted Learners programme. I was approached in June of 2019 to work with learners who have been out of school for a period of time, usually because of ill health. So sometimes it's physical ill health and sometimes it's mental ill health, sometimes it's both. When I first started with working with the class in June, there was a lot of things we didn't know and we didn't know how we were going to do it, and it was just an initial pilot of about 6 weeks. So what happened was I had a few things in mind, but I wasn't quite sure even how big the class would be or what the class size would be. In the event, it was 2 pupils that we began with, and the first week, myself and Hamish Budge, who teaches maths on the same programme, we worked with it was 2 girls, worked with the girls together, and they were very nervous about the whole process. There was a lot of things we didn't know how it would work, and so what the girls didn't want to turn their cameras on, and they didn't want to turn their microphones on. So we had the situation where Hamish and I were talking to each other and including the girls as much as possible. On VScene there's a chat function. You have it down the side of the screen, and we would ask the girls direct questions and then they would write their replies. And we continued that way for probably about a week or so. And then I said to them, right, okay, we're going to have Challenge Tuesdays. And on Challenge Tuesday, they had to do little tasks for me. So the first thing that they had to do was they had to be brave enough to turn their camera on. And they didn't have to have it on for the whole lesson, they just had it on for a little bit. And then once they got happy with having their camera on, then their next challenge was they had to say something. And then they had to say 3 things, or then they had to say 5 things. And so bit by bit by bit, we just worked them up to the point where they felt quite comfortable talking to me and to Hamish on camera. Slowly, they then started talking to each other, and I would give them little challenges where they would speak to each other. So in this way, we built up and tried to overcome some of their anxieties. It's a difficult thing when you're part of a new project, but also when you're dealing with an awful lot of barriers to your learning and challenges to your learning. These children hadn't been in school for, sort of 3 years really in any kind of regular way. And so this was a big deal. They had a lot of anxiety about being, about not knowing things, and so we had to kind of overcome that. And I'd said, well, look guys, it's totally fine if you don't know something because it's just us. And so for me, in my approach anyway, is that you have to build a relationship with these children. It's not like in a normal class where they're already part of a student body. They're individuals and they're in their own homes. So you have to build that connection. The connection I have with the girls is we all like dogs and we all have a dog. So one of my pupils there, her dog quite often is sitting beside her, and he climbs on the keyboard on occasion. So we have great laughs with the dogs. And initially, when I was first teaching this programme, I was teaching it from home. So I had my dog with me too. So there was things like that that helped us to form a relationship. I'm very conscious that I'm coming into their home, and initially, of course, they were coming into my home. So you can't have the very formal relationship that you perhaps might have in a classroom. You have to make it easy for them to speak. You have to make them feel comfortable about talking. The difference I've seen in these pupils has been dramatic. From girls who couldn't turn on a microphone or couldn't turn on a camera are now able to present to the class, they're able to present to other teachers, they're able to talk confidently and fluently about different texts, they're able to give their opinions, they're able to offer perspectives on on the world even. You know, they've really worked so hard, and I am so proud of them at how much they've achieved. Apart from the satisfaction of being able to help pupils who have been out of education for so long and are so isolated, one of the other really good things that I've enjoyed about this programme is how much I've been able to learn about new technologies and different ways of teaching. I think it's made me much more aware of my practice in terms of being able to use technology more effectively. So we use OneNote on Microsoft Teams, and I now use that in my own classroom as well, in my own traditional classroom setting, and to great effect. I've also used things like Google Classroom, and I use that to good effect as well. And I think that these are really important ways that we can engage pupils, but also you know, give them access to really high quality materials, and it's all just there online. I mean, I can do things like set up homework for them. I can, you know, I can provide them with notes. I can provide them with feedback in lots of different ways, and they can also do the same with me. So they can, you know, send me photographs, or they can send me videos, or they can, you know, they can record their responses to things in different ways. And I think that's actually really important and has helped. It's helping the interrupted learners, but it's also helping my pupils in the school as well. I think that this system, for me anyway, has shown me that our children are facing so many difficulties and so many barriers to their learning, and if we can help them and really make it very child-centred and pupil-centred and think about what their needs are, I just really welcome anything that allows us to do that.
My name's Stephen Graham, and I'm a principal teacher here at e-Sgoil. Now, e-Sgoil is all about removing barriers in education, and in the past what we've done is look to address the poverty of opportunity that has come about as a result of maybe geographic reasons, to try and improve the subject offered to pupils irrespective of where they stay. So we've been looking at providing emergency cover, looking at supplementing maybe the breadth of the curriculum in some of the schools locally and in other areas of the country as well, working across Scotland to try and facilitate learning in any way we can. Now, recently we became increasingly aware of the sheer number of interrupted learners that there are in Scotland. And there might only be a small number in each school, but if you aggregate that across the country, you've got hundreds, thousands of pupils who are either unwilling or unable to attend their local school. And with the best will in the world, local authorities are stretched, and they may only be able to provide them with a limited support of tutors visiting their home. We feel that there's a better way of addressing the need that's out there. So what we decided to do was to set up a pilot project with funding from the Northern Alliance across the 8 authorities that make up that Regional Improvement Collaborative, to try and give a basic offer, an experience of English and maths at Nat 4 and Nat 5 level, to try and see if we can meet the learners on their terms, meet them in their home, and have them re-engage with the learning. These are young people who have been out of school for maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years in some instances, and some with highly complex needs, high anxiety, and being able to put that pupil in control of how they engage with the teacher is hugely important and hugely valued by these young people. If we can put these young people into a community where they can learn together rather than learning in isolation, then even better. So we've termed this project e-Sgoil. I not only standing for interrupted learners and internet-based, but also being in a community, and also that they're in control. So what would happen is that with these pupils who have high anxiety, what they can do is they can just engage with the teacher on their terms. They can type their responses. They don't need to talk. If they don't want other people to see them, they can have their camera switched off or can have a piece of gauze over the lens, so that gradually they can be nurtured and taken along to a stage where they're fully engaging and interacting with the teacher and with the other members of the class. But where anxiety is a barrier, we can remove that by having them engage on their terms with the camera switched off, and if they don't wish to communicate, they can communicate by typing just as effectively. They can produce work, they can engage with the teacher, and they can communicate freely in that way. And having put them at ease and working with them, taking a very gentle approach, we've seen pupils go from having been hiding under the table on the first day, not willing to engage at all, to now fully active participating members of the class. And it's so heartening to see the feedback that we get from these young people, from their schools, from their parents, to see their own children engaging with education from home quite often is just so welcome. And if we were able to scale this up, if we were able to widen our offer, if we were able to extend that offer to more pupils, then I feel that we could intervene at an early stage to make a real difference in terms of the pathways and opportunities that these young people will be exposed to. If we can accredit them with some courses before they leave school, then we can hopefully set them up on a pathway that's going to be a lot more positive than it would otherwise have been. So by working together as a collaborative, as an alliance across the north of Scotland, we feel that we can do better. And what we're doing is using the tools and the technology that's available to us to meet a need that's a desperate need and is affecting an increasing amount of our young people. The aim of this programme is always to eventually have these pupils re-engage with their local school. We're not looking to set ourselves up as some sort of alternative option for young people, merely to be there to support as and when required. But it may well be that once these pupils have sufficient confidence and that they're re-engaged with learning, that they might join with the e-Sgoil lessons from their local school as a halfway house, and then eventually have them reintegrate into their own local school, maybe taking a blend initially where they would be still receiving tuition from ourselves, but also being part of their local school as well and engaging with classes there. So the aim is always to get them to re-engage, but we recognise that that can be a very long process, and that you've always got to take a pupil by pupil approach, because what works with one pupil may not work with another. And for some of the pupils, it may well be that we have to be committed and in there for the long haul. So to have sustainable funding would certainly help us to clarify what we look to achieve in the coming years. And we're hopeful that by looking at the evidence of the impact that this is having on young people, that speaks far louder than anything that we can say. At the end of the day, the evidence is the young person. And if the young person is able to demonstrate the impact that this has had on their outlook and their lives, then I think that speaks far louder than any report could ever speak.